So today I'm going to talk about stress. It's a very important topic to me, having been stressed for most of my life. And what I'm going to show you today is the link between stress and any lack that you might be experiencing in your life. And the lack can be in any area. So it can be in your health. You may be experiencing health issues, illness, symptoms, pain, say with a big smile, pain. You might be experiencing emotional challenges in your relationships, in your well-being, in your sense of self, and mental problems as well. All of these three aspects of our well-being are affected by stress and the underlying lack. This is where stress comes from. And what I want to say, what I want to share, and it's such an important message if you are suffering from stress in any way, is that it's not your fault. It's not your fault that you're stressed. You haven't done anything wrong. In fact, the stress that you're experiencing now is not something that you became. You didn't become stressed because you're not able to cope or you're not good enough. Stress is something that we learn from a very early age. We're usually born into stress. We usually grow up with stress in a stressful environment, home environment. And in that way, stress becomes our norm. And it's very difficult to understand where it all started, because it doesn't necessarily become clear until we're adults and we're living a life and we're trying to get on and we're having difficulties in some way. We're having difficulties coping. We're feeling emotionally overwhelmed, feeling that there's never enough time. There's that sense of the mind on overdrive the whole time, or feeling overwhelmed, anxious. There can be self-doubt, health problems. Stress can present itself in many, many, many ways. But essentially, it's not feeling well in yourself. And to the extent that it detracts from living well, from feeling well, from being in that creative, expansive, joyful state, and who you're meant to be, that joyful, authentic expression. And yes, stress can show up in so many different ways, and it's often not something that we're aware of, because it all happens, it all starts at a very early age, whether it's people pleasing, overachieving, perfectionism, not feeling comfortable of letting go of the need to control, OCD, compulsive behavior. There are so many expressions of stress. It all starts at a very, very early age, and stress becomes your story. And it is rooted in lack. Everything that we experience in the present moment, whether it's feeling of not enough time, of not enough something, of not enough confidence, of not enough energy, of not enough to go around, not enough money, not enough love, of not feeling well in our relationships, of not feeling well in ourselves. And it's our relationship to ourselves that has been undermined by the lack that we experienced, often from a very, very early age, when we were young. And this is where the lack started. A lack of time, a lack of validation, a lack of care, a lack of consideration, a lack of attention, a lack of understanding, of not being enough, of being too much, of not fitting into the space that we were meant to. And I experienced all of this stress from an early age, and suddenly in my 30s, late 20s, 30s and my mid-40s, I experienced this lack in every area of my life. In my health, in my wealth, in my happiness, in my fulfillment, in my relationships, in life. I was a walking embodiment of lack. And it was all to do with the stress that I experienced from a very early age, and the stress that disconnected me from who I was. And what that stress does, and the way it's mirrored back to you from the people around you at an early age, your parents, your caregivers, and it's not their fault. They grew up with stress too, and it just gets passed on and it gets passed on until it stops. I'm very happy to say it stops with me. My kids aren't stressed. I'm not stressed, and it feels great. It feels like the antithesis of stress now, because on the other side of lack, which is the cause of stress, is abundance. There's abundance of well-being. There's an abundance of time, so much time. There's an abundance of creativity, of potential, of possibility, of healthy relationships, of love. There is an abundance. That's what's on the other side of lack. And stress is there in the middle. What I've understood is that stress, all the stress that I was experiencing, was actually the pathway back to the abundance that was always there in who I am. That I was the key to my well-being in every sense: health, wealth, and happiness. And I'm here to share that with you. I am so happy to share what I've discovered with you, because I know from personal experience, and having worked with many people over the past 4 to 5 years particularly, that it is possible to transform stress. It's what I call the alchemy of stress. I'm an alchemist. I work with energy and consciousness, and I've learnt how to transform the stress that is held as a memory in a body and to alchemize it from a state of lack in terms of your health into abundance. Healthy, vital well-being in every sense. And it's not just physically, it's mentally, it's emotionally, and that ripples out into your life. It ripples out into your relationships. It ripples out into what you do in life, day to day, that fills you up, fills you with joy, brings you joy in life, in what you do and how you express yourself. And there is freedom. There is creative freedom. There is freedom in your authenticity. No longer in that space of I'm not good enough or lacking confidence, full of doubt. And it is opening up that space of pure potential for you to discover more and more of who you are. And interestingly, it's the stress that is held as a memory in the body that is a pathway back to discovering who you are at your core, who you always were meant to be. And it's enabling you and empowering you to create the life that you've always dreamed of living. It's an incredibly powerful, hopeful, beautiful message for anybody who's suffering from stress in any way, in any area of their life. Because what I've discovered is that it isn't necessary to manage stress or to become more resilient or to work harder. It is simply a question of learning to understand your own personal relationship to stress, the origin of stress, and what the body is showing you as a guide back to self and to wealth, health, and happiness. It's powerful. And I felt compelled to share this story, my personal story, so that I may help other people transform, alchemize the stress that they're experiencing, so that they can start to live in the fullest expression of who they are. It's why I'm here to share this. So as always, thank you for being here. Thank you for staying to the end of this video and for liking, for sharing. So if you want to work with me, then I encourage you to click the link in the description box The Alchemy of Stress, the Lighthouse app. And I guide you in the most effortless way. I've set it up all for you. It's all there. Everything I learnt over a period of 10 years. There's nothing to force. It's a natural shift, a natural progression in that transformation, that alchemizing the stress and shifting out of that state of lack in whatever way that's showing up in your life, and shifting back into your abundant, most expansive expression. Okay, so as always, I look forward to seeing you in the next post.